All right, welcome to the Krug Show. We're here at Levi's Stadium. Niners lose on Monday Night Football, 40-34. There were some good things, man. There were some really, really bad things. Brock Purdy has a hurt elbow. Somebody said maybe don't play that guy. I don't remember who it is, but one of us said so. Anyway, let's go right here. We're going to go for a good, solid hour. Um, let's roll right here. Welcome to the Krug Show. All right, we get it rolling here after 49er football on YouTube. Welcome to the Krug Show. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. Tell them the Krug sent you. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. My good friend Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. And this live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. That's right. Download the app below. Make sure you use that promo code Niners to get the first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who signs up is automatically entered to win a free Ricky Pearsall signed jersey, which we will give away on Super Bowl night in our postgame show after Super Bowl 59. And there it is. There it is, the Pearsall jersey. And Ricky Pearsall was really good. Why don't we start right there, guys? Ricky Pearsall tried to pass. That didn't go so well, but he caught the ball well today. He caught 8 balls. He was targeted, it looks like 10 times. He caught 8 balls for 141 yards and a touchdown. Easily his best day as a pro. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this game and get into a lot of the negative stories, I think we probably should highlight Pearsall because, I've dumped on this guy because as far as I'm concerned, you are what you are in the present. And he hasn't been very good. And yet he was a first round pick. There's expectations. And it was just great to see him bust out today with the best performance of his short NFL career. What'd you guys think of Ricky?
I thought it looked good. I thought, he did what, we thought he would do in terms of like his upside. He, runs routes well, has pretty good ball skills. He made a nice one-handed catch. Still, I think that the Lions defense was just atrocious in this game. Like, I think that the Lions have a good brand of football right now, and people are going to give them a lot of credit, but I just think they played terrible defense tonight. Like, it felt like Ricky Pearsall was catching the ball and there was no one in the screen. It was like he was by himself. I mean, there was one that first pass he caught, that 40-yarder, that should have been a touchdown. I thought that was a bad ball from Brock. He was wide open, but it plays like that where it's just like the guy's wide open. What were the Lions doing? But yeah, I thought Ricky looked pretty good tonight.
What'd you think, Ray?
Yeah, I thought Ricky was the bright spot in this game. Certainly, like, there gives I'm sure him, but really just me some confidence in him next year. I thought that there was a couple good things about the game. Pearsall was number one. Moody just like answering the question of like, are we going to let this guy hang around? Again, that's over now. I actually feel bad for him, but that's over. And that's actually a good thing. I feel like Debo was in the role that I feel like he now is destined to be in. It's the role where you can actually get some use out of him, and that's the Cordero Patterson on the Falcons role, where he returns kicks, and he's actually an awesome kick returner. We've said it now for a couple of weeks. Like he is awesome when he gets a head of steam. Like he really is awesome. Aside from the fumble, but the first kickoff of the game made it to like the 40. That really jump started their offense. And then you just use them in limited. You have a few running plays to them. You got a few tricky things in the pass game to them. But really, it's Ricky Pearsall now has those routes. And that's how it's got to be. That's the best way to use Debo. It's unfortunate because they pay him a boatload of money, but I'm sure that thing can be restructured. And It was a little preview of 2025. I feel like also, Pearsall best game still tough after watching Ladd McConkey just absolutely dominate. And it's like anyone that you don't even have to be a college football fan. If you are the most casual college football, you listen to Colin Cowherd, once a month and, you watch the bowl games, there was one white wide receiver in the draft that was awesome. And it was Ladd McConkey. And I definitely fall more into that camp than the Krug camp of knowing every single player. And when they took Pearsall, I was like, all right, I guess I trust Kyle, but like, what about McConkey? Like, you know what I mean? So it just sucks that it's like the dopes off the street. It's such an obvious to go to McConkey to them. And then it just turns out that's what they should have done, which sucks. But it looks like he can be usable.
McConkey to me does everything that Pearsall does, but better. Like it's like they're very similar. I think. I mean, McConkey might be a little bit
smaller.
Small.
He's smaller. McConkey is smaller, but McConkey runs
faster.
In the
he's quicker.
Yeah, he runs in the 4.3s. I mean, Pearsall runs in the 4.4s. I mean, it's a little different.
But also just the way that they're using Ricky. They drafted Ricky and they're using him like kind of as like a slot type of player. I know he lines up outside, but he's playing the same type of position that Ladd is. Like they're projecting to be the same type of receiver in my mind. So Ricky's longer, but they're still kind of using him in the same role they would use Ladd. So I don't really understand that.
Did we welcome in the great Dan Coach Emilio from NorCal Sports Network? Danny taking a timeout from his Roki Sasaki watch to join us. Danny, has Roki Sasaki signed with the Giants yet?
Not yet. Not till January 15th. He's eligible to sign, but he'll be a Dodger.
Oh, okay. Oh, you sure about that?
Dodger or Padre, I think.
All right.
Dan, can I throw something out for you? I think I'm seeing you wearing that DC brand hat. Same initials as you. That actually would look great on a cap. You make that a Dan Coach Emilio cap, maybe turn the star into a baseball. Yeah. I think we're talking merch.
Yeah, I've also got a new hat because Logan was on my riding me. So in honor of Logan Webb.
Excuse me.
What
was Logan doing?
Wait a minute. That sounded like Grady. You and
we might have a story here. We might have a story.
Yeah. Okay.
So Danny, what did you think of well, we started off by talking a little bit about Pearsall, but I mean, it kind of quickly got into a Jake Moody. Here, by the way, here's Moody's quotes. So I'll read his quotes, Danny, and then you tell me what you think. He was asked, how did it feel out there? Obviously missed a few. What would you say your confidence level is right now? Obviously missed a few. He missed. That's almost a worse way of saying it than the truth. And usually it's like, hey, he missed two. I don't know, a few. I mean, he missed a couple.
He missed two and an extra point. Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Actually, I take that back. You're right. He did miss a few. We welcome in Frank Red. Frank, good to see you. But he says definitely one of the lowest times of my career. He's like dating back to when I first started football. So confidence, you just have to keep it high. You have no other choice as a kicker. You just have to keep staying confident in yourself. Otherwise, you have nothing. So have to stay confident and just keep going from here. And then, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like when you take a kicker in the third round, you're taking a position that already has pressure and you're putting more pressure on the situation. And it's like, it's bad enough that there's a ton of pressure on these guys, but then you inject more pressure by taking the guy so early. And it's like it only works out if you draft like an all-time kicker. If you don't draft an all-time kicker, now you're sitting there going, And Shanahan was asked about it this week. What about Moody? What's his status? And he's like, well, I was with a kicker earlier in my career, and I forget he didn't reference who he was talking about, but he's like, we cut him, and a couple years later, he was the highest paid kicker in the league. So obviously they have, they're second guessing themselves. Obviously they've thought about cutting him, and they're afraid. But I'll tell you what really bothers me a ton. It's not just the two missed field goals. He kicked two kickoffs, didn't even get to the end zone. One of them landed on the 5-yard line. One of them landed on the goal line.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's just
you
that's
got to keep
that's
the
He
ball.
hasn't
in
been the
end zone.
same since his
How about his
injury. I
onside
wonder
kick?
if the injury.
Have you ever seen a worse onside kick? I mean, he like
worse
drilled
than
it.
that. That made me think. That really made me think. I believe Kyle when he says like he doesn't know what the hell to do with kickers. He just basically prays that they make their kicks. But I feel like they did not practice an onside kick all year. That's actually the feeling I get. Is that just has never been practiced. That was the first one this year.
He kicked the ball harder on the onside kick than he did on the regular kickoffs. I mean, he drilled it out of bounds. It's like, and then, like you said, Larry, the short kicks. This happened a couple weeks ago where he was kicking it only to the 10. There's something really off on his mechanics because as a kicker, it's all you can't be muffing the ball 10 yards short and then the next kick you're 12, 15 yards, you're into the end zone. That's not an issue.
You're right. He's not striking it with any consistency.
Right. That's all mechanics.
Yeah, no question.
I think he's probably not even healthy from that high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
And he probably felt like he had to get back.
It's interesting, Danny, that you said that. Okay, because so he had he was 12 of 13 to start the year. He has the high ankle sprain. It was kind of a bad one, right? He almost had it was kind of Buster Posey-esque, except with Scott Cousins, except it wasn't dirt, it was grass, and there was a little more bend there, so he didn't snap the ankle. But when I interviewed him, the week he came back or prior to the week he came back, I said, "How you feeling?" And he said, "I feel fine, except I have pain. I have pain on the kicking leg right at like where I kick." And I'm like, well, I started thinking to myself, well, it's kind of like a pitcher that has an arm problem. You start to pitch around the pain, and then all of a sudden you take a mediocre injury and you make it a major injury because you're changing your mechanics. And I kind of feel like maybe that's what's going on here, because he said that he had pain right on the spot on the ankle. He like kicks it right on the bridge of the ankle and the foot. And he's like, that's where he was having the most pain. So
what was the hurry to bring him back? You had Carlson at the time. I didn't understand it.
Not only that,
Danny, like he's like quarterback.
Not only did they have Carlson at the time, Wright and Carlson without Moody kicked 8 for 8.
Right.
They were 8 for 8. And then they brought this guy back and would you say he's kicked since? It's not good.
It's not good at all. He's missed several and his kickoffs have been very sporadic. He's had balls. How about the balls that he kicked like he missed and they went like sputtering. They didn't even reach the 20-yard line and it came out to the 40 because he didn't kick it into the zone. That happened twice. That's weird.
I kind of feel like the theme of tonight's show ought to be like, do you stay with them or do you move on? It's like there are people that want to move on from Purdy, but I thought he played pretty well tonight outside of the 2 interceptions. But once again, the same thing holds true. I did a promo on KMBR when months ago that said, hey, when Brock Purdy throws a pick, they lose. When he doesn't throw a pick, they win. I've been meaning to go tell him to update it, except it's still true. And it's held true the entire season. Every time he's had an individual turnover, they've lost. And when he's avoided it, they've won. Is it as simple as that? Frank, what'd you think of the game?
I thought it was kind of a fact-finding mission. There were a couple of things that I wanted to see watching this game. I wanted to see professionals come out and exhibit effort. I wanted to see Cal Shanahan be engaged, play calling. I saw that. I wanted to see Brock Purdy come out and acknowledge that it was a big-time moment and play well. I wanted to see Pearsall do what he did. I wanted to see Kittle get his 4,000-yard season. And I wanted to see guys flying around. I saw a lot of good things. And from a personnel perspective, now I can really start to look at the tape and go, well, is player A, B, or C the type of players I want to have on my team next year? But what I didn't want to see was Purdy with horrible interceptions. I mean, it's one thing to say that he threw 2 picks, but there's levels to this. It's kind of like, he's starting to remind me of Dak Prescott a little bit. I love Dak Prescott, but those are gross mistakes. When Purdy has a wide open field and he can throw to a space, he's fine. But when he has to throw to tight windows at this point, he's even a little hesitant, and I'm concerned about that. The other thing is, unlike the great quarterbacks in the NFL that really get paid, they run to daylight. They seek opportunities and they run to daylight. Even Joe Burrow can do that. Purdy runs not to get hurt. So I'm concerned about that. But overall, I saw 8 out of 10 things that I wanted to see tonight, and a lot of them were positive.
Crow says Kyle just destroyed another quarterback. Add him to the list. I don't know if he destroyed Brock Purdy. It's interesting. I mean, Purdy made a number of really good plays tonight. He was 27 to 35. He completed 88% of his passes in the first half. To me, when the one thing about Brock is that he's not going to be able. He's not the kind of quarterback where you can just say, "Hey, jump on my back and I'll carry us through." The Niners in the first half maintained tremendous offensive balance. The Niners in the second half just passed it almost exclusively. There were 16 consecutive pass plays, and I'll have to watch the all 22, but I thought some of the route combinations seemed to be very repetitive. And I just felt like on that second interception, Kirby Joseph was 12 yards deeper than the receiver. As soon as Brock took his hand off the ball, he started to break on the ball, and he didn't just break and get to the ball. He got 4 or 5 yards in front of the receiver. He didn't just break and get to the catch point. He broke and jumped the route fully. I mean, the receiver couldn't have even tackled him or even made a play on the ball. He jumped it so aggressively. So I to me, it was obviously a bad throw. I mean, and the guy read Purdy's eyes. But I mean, you can't get that repetitive in as far as run pass and as far as your route combinations. Otherwise, defensive backs start to see the patterns and they start to gamble. And that's what we saw there.
You know, Larry, I was watching that play afterwards, the replay. I was watching it and they were showing it in slow motion on ESPN, and they were breaking it down. When Brock threw it, Pearsall was just coming out of his break. What was interesting, and it made me think of Mahomes and Kelsey. Pearsall was wide open in the zone, but they had to run Kyle's play. There's no innovation to say, okay, just go stop and plant yourself right there in the zone, because he was open, but he threw right into coverage because he anticipated that's where the play was called. Pearsall was supposed to be there. It was a timing play, and Brock didn't have to release it right away. He still had time in the pocket. But my point is, I've seen Kelsey just go sit down and find a spot, and then Mahomes finds him. And it's like they know each other. And is there any of that happens in Kyle's offense that allows for that type of ingenuity? That says, hey, let's Brock says, hey, I'm going to do it different. If you're open right there, just plant yourself, stop. Because I don't see that. And he's looking a little bit like Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'm wondering if this is Kyle's offense that makes guys look like this.
I think he needs to have balance. He didn't have balance in the second half. I also think that, Brock, in this particular game got sped up a little bit, by the defense. But yeah, I mean, it was, when you're in the first half, it seemed like everybody threw to was wide open. In the second half, when the Lions started to pull away a little bit, there was more pressure. And they went away from the run game and just said, hey, Brock, make it happen. And this is kind of what I feared, which is why I really didn't think I would have started him in this game, is that, in the preseason, when Trent Williams comes out, Brock Purdy comes out. But in the regular season, you got to go with your starting quarterback because he's your starting quarterback. But when you're mathematically eliminated and you don't have Trent Williams, you don't even have Trent Williams backup. You're playing behind Austin Pleasance, who was fine, but I mean, the guy wasn't even here on Thanksgiving, and you're going to put your franchise quarterback behind him. okay, that's one thing. But to me, it's like, be smart about it and have a run heavy plan and at least try to maintain balance. Instead, once the bullets start flying, it's like Kyle Shanahan forgets altogether that they're out of it, that they can't win the Super Bowl this year. That, I mean, it's like, I'm not saying don't try to win the game, try to win the game, but I mean, you're this is a guy who runs the ball on 3rd and 10 because he doesn't want negative plays. Well, if you're going to run the ball on 3rd and 10 to avoid a negative, play for your quarterback, then why would you play your franchise quarterback in week 17 behind Austin Pleasance and 3? You already have a bad line, and then you've got the replacements from a bad line.
Right.
And then you get into a game that doesn't matter at all. And instead of I thought the Niners, played hard. I thought they showed well. Just play the game and get out of there. Instead, you're going for the win. And it's like you have your quarterback running for his life, and it's like now you got him hurt. I mean, what if the MRI shows a torn ligament in the elbow, and this guy needs elbow surgery? Now what? Now all of a sudden you got to look at Kirk Cousins. Now all of a sudden you got to look at Aaron Rodgers. Now all of a sudden you got to Drew Lock, and you start looking around at what Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones. You start looking around, going, you know what? We got to.
I feel bad for Brock.
We got to take an inventory on the quarterback availability, because, I mean, we don't know what the situation is with his elbow. I mean, could it be? I mean, the only thing that would be worse would be like something like a torn ACL or something like that. But I mean, this is a second potentially major injury to his elbow.
They said it was a nerve issue in his throwing arm.
And he said he had pain and he couldn't throw. I mean,
Right.
this is, and this happened while you're risking all of this for what gain again?
Didn't that happen in the Philadelphia game? Wasn't it? He had numbness and pain, and he couldn't throw. Same thing. It was
I don't know if it was the same thing, but
they did say he did say they did some UCL tests, and that seems okay, but they don't really know what it is. But here's the thing, Larry, you're talking about him playing or not playing. Okay, you played him. You're ahead. You're slightly behind. But when you get down 12 points at 2 minutes to go and you're trying to, that's the time to take him out, because Detroit's just teeing off. It's just like you're teeing off with a backup line. Why you got him in there? You're down 12. You're not going to win the game.
Well, it's like a fight. It's a fight that you're losing on points. So what do you do? A fight that you're losing on points. Do you continue to spar and just take, do the best you can? Or do you risk it all and go for the home run shot and expose your chin and maybe get knocked out? Well, I mean, there's risk reward, right? It's like measure risk reward. And I just felt like they played this game like they were still alive. And it's like, and I mean, it's admirable, but it's also stupid. I mean, it's not smart. It's like if I told you, I have a Rolls Royce, and I'm thinking about, and I got a Honda Accord, a brand new Honda Accord, and I got a Rolls Royce with 100,000 miles on it. And I tell you, I'm driving cross country, and I tell you, I'm going to take my Rolls. You'd probably say, no, dude, take the Honda. And that would be the right answer. And it's like, you're in this situation with this quarterback, and it's like, he's operating behind a bad line against a really good team that's out for blood, that's playing at a much higher level. As soon as the Niners lost connection with the Lions on the scoreboard, they should have pulled Brock out of the game.
Yes.
And protected their quarterback. But it's like, who's the adult in the room with this franchise? Is there anybody on the coaching headsets that can say, hey, Kyle, by the way, you may, you effed up 2024. You may not want to F up 2025 and get your starting quarterback out of the game. What if this guy's got a major injury and he's not going to be there week 1? Are you still going to sign him to a big money deal? Now you're going to pay Ayuk and he's hurt. You paid Trent, he's hurt. You paid CMC, he's hurt. Now Brock's going to get hurt. And what you're either going to pay him or not pay him. Just see why the risk reward made no sense tonight. I mean, and I know, I get it. I want to play. I want to play. Well, the same way they said, hey, man, we got to protect Dre Greenlaw from himself. You got to protect Brock Purdy from himself too. And I just thought, once again, risk reward. What was on the line tonight? And look what they risked. Now the season's over, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But I hope, once again, if he's not ready to go next year, or if this guy's going to have off-season elbow surgery, guess what? Last time he had off-season elbow surgery, they considered bringing in Tom Brady because they weren't really sure about what Brock was going to give them. Aren't they in the exact same spot now?
Yeah, I think I got to push back a little. I part of me agrees with you. In the Rolls Royce analogy, I do feel like the lease on the Rolls Royce is about to be up, and you got a really good deal on the lease. You've had a little bit of car trouble with it, and this is like you get a free road trip before you go make the decision on whether or not you're going to buy it or just move on to another car. And you took it for a drive. I mean, I think the reps thing is important. Like you're only going to get so many reps. There's only so many games in a year. And I actually liked seeing him in that situation when they're down 12, because how many times have we seen it now where it's like this stupid Niners team gets down anything at all and they just absolutely fold in the fourth, or they have these horrendous drives when they need to be, going no huddle and moving the ball and scoring quickly. And they're just like, moving so slowly. I kind of liked seeing that. I kind of felt like that was the vibe with Shanahan all day. He's like, look, I know we're going to be chasing Detroit all day. We're not going to be able to stop them. I just want to see like what we can get from Purdy. I want to see like what this offense looks like just in a passing offense, basically. And I don't know. I don't think Purdy's arm looked very good just before the injury. It's starting to worry me a little bit. He's not like a Jimmy G level of like injury prone, but I do worry that he has a little bit of that Kyler Murray small quarterback thing where every single year with Kyler Murray, he's awesome at the beginning of the year. Come December, January, he's a completely different player. He's banged up. He has nagging injuries. The first year with Brock, he only had to play 6 or 7 games. Last year was great, but I do worry a little bit about whether or not his body and his arm and his shoulder can really hold up over the course of a season. I don't mind getting him out there and just seeing what he can do. It's just more data.
Yeah.
Would you play him next week then if he's healthy?
Oh, no.
I think I wouldn't, because for draft position reasons, like. And if he's already coming in a little bit,
I kind of disagree with you, Dad. Like, my take on this is like, if you're healthy and you have no lingering potential injury, you play. Like, I can't think of like if for some reason the Bills were not in the playoffs this year, like I don't think they'd be sitting Josh Allen with the last 2 games just for the hell of it, even if he was completely healthy. And if Brock Purdy is completely healthy, I would play him.
Okay, but what about the offensive line?
Well, how bad was the offensive line today? Was the offensive line horrendous? They allowed 2 sacks, and the play that Purdy got hurt on was a missed block by the running back. So
in
it
the
wasn't
preseason, I've sat in the room before, as Kyle Shanahan has said, "Hey, you know what? We took Brock out at this point in the preseason game, whatever." And people were like, "Why?" Like, well, because we took Trent out, so we figured we'd take Brock out. And that's pretty commonplace that teams will take out, they'll leave their starting quarterback in there if his pass protector, if his blindside pass protector is in there with him. And if he's not in there, a lot of times they'll take that guy out of the game. So if you're going to do that in the preseason, when you actually are trying to gear up for a season and your sharpness
you
matters.
Can't just only play for playoffs. Like, why is Malik Neighbors playing? Why is Bryce Young playing? Why is anyone playing?
Let me give you a different.
Let me just put all the backups in.
I'll give you a different perspective on this.
It's stupid.
I'm going to tell you the elephant in the room after Dan speaks. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, my point on this. Make the first before I make my point about the arm strength, Ryan. I thought the throw to Pearsall when he was wide open, it looked like Brock threw it like everything he could to get it there. And it was like, and it wasn't that far. That was an easy touchdown with a good arm. I mean, he like wound up and fired it just to get it there, and it was kind of going sideways a little bit. My point with Brock sitting is this: you have to make a decision next year. Who's your backup quarterback? You're not bringing back Josh Dobbs and Brandon Allen, I don't think. So you got Tanner Mordecai. You got to make a decision. Let's play him on Monday Night Football at home, and let's play him on the road, see what he's got, because do we need to draft a quarterback next year, or do we have a solid backup in Tanner Mordecai? You're not going to get a better chance to play him than right now in a meaningless season.
But Dan, if Tanner Mordecai was anything significant, he would be on the active roster at least. Like I don't think there's like I don't know.
I just don't paying him that. You're not.
I don't think Tanner Mordecai is the next Brock Purdy. If that's what you're.
I don't think you got to see he's a backup. Is he a backup?
We won't ever know if you don't see him play.
I mean,
they're watching him in practice every single day. It's not like he doesn't play unless he plays in the game.
I mean, I'm not going to defer to them because they watched Brock Purdy for 13 weeks and decided that Jimmy
they knew
Garoppolo
enough to
and
keep
Trey
him on the
Lance.
roster.
Yeah, but they also if practice tells all, and Brock is clearly better than Trey, clearly better than Jimmy, he didn't show any of that in practice. Yeah, I think he probably did.
Well, I mean that's debatable because Kyle thought he was really good from the get-go, but they couldn't start him over two guys.
He says that now that he's played well. What's he supposed to say? You know what? This guy was really good in camp, and I never saw it. I just never saw it. I mean, that would have been
insane if they started their undrafted free agent or their last pick of the draft quarterback over their first round pick and a player they're paying $20 million at the time.
There's a business dynamic taking place. You negotiate in the boardroom and you negotiate with your tape. I mean, unfortunately, he got hurt tonight. Even if he was not hurt, I don't think he would play next week. He needed to get good film, good play on tape, which is why he wanted to play. And he played relatively well, minus those 2 interceptions. And unfortunately, football is a game in which you get hurt. I mean, it just happens. And those guys went out there, those third, fourth string offensive linemen, and they did a professional job. It was kind of a freaky play that he got hurt on. But again, Brock Purdy in his existence is probably going to get hurt if he plays enough football because he's small. He's not the most muscular guy in the world. And when the pocket closes on him, it closes fast. He does not run away from big, tough, fast defensive linemen. So I wasn't surprised he got hurt. I was happy that he hasn't been hurt throughout the season because it happens. So I wouldn't play him next week if he didn't get hurt tonight, but I felt good about him playing. This is Monday Night Football. The 49ers as an organization wanted to show that they're not one of the also-rans in the league.
I just think you had 15 weeks to show what you had. You didn't play him last year in week 18. Why? Because you were trying to rest him for the playoffs. Well, I mean, now I guess there's no playoffs. I guess it doesn't matter. But to me, it's not about it's week 17. It's about the fact that 3/5 of his bad offensive line are, not playing. He was going with 3 guys. I mean, it's just like anything else. It's like, I like to do things, but I'm going to be safe. And I think they should have been safer about this. I mean, it wasn't like nobody could have. I mean, once again, what are you gaining? He's I guess maybe a little bit of a rapport with Pearsall, and so you got that out of it. But we're going to find out tomorrow the extent of this injury, and then we can decide if a little bit of growth in a game for Ricky Pearsall was worth whatever injury Brock Purdy suffered tonight. And we can decide tomorrow if it was worth it or not. But to sit here and be like, well, you just play. No, that's not really the case because there's all kinds of guys. Trent Williams is probably healthy right now. He's not playing. Dre Greenlaw, it could get out there. If this were a Super Bowl, these guys would be playing. They're not playing. Now, all I'm saying is if you can protect, I mean, really what it came down to is this. If you wanted to play Brock Purdy, that was fine, but you had to do it the right way. And they didn't do it the right way. What I say the right way, what do I mean? I mean, you have to maintain offensive balance. You got to make sure the ball gets out of his hands fast. It's a meaningless game. There's no reason for him to take crushing hits in meaningless games. So that when you come out in the first half, it was great. He was throwing to open receivers. He wasn't doing 7-step drops. He was getting the ball out, and he was getting the ball out on time, and they looked pretty good. But in the second half, they became all pass, no run. And it suddenly
16
became
straight passes, somebody told me
16
earlier.
straight passes. And it became a situation where, it just was a passing only kind of a game. So then what happens there? Pressure, a lot more pressure on the quarterback. What did you see when you added the pressure? Turnovers, but you also he also suffered an injury, and who knows? Maybe it won't be a big injury, but if it is, I mean, once again, you gained what? I mean, Brock Purdy helps you today because Ricky Pearsall needed, to get going, and Brock Purdy, obviously was going to be the best guy to get him going. So that was the positive. But let's just say Brock got a serious elbow injury. Was the trade-off worth it? I would say it was not. That's all I'm saying. If you guys want to say that it was worth it, okay, I mean, we could debate that, but I personally just don't think it was worth it. You had a bunch of games. It's like you had all kinds of time to get it done, and you didn't get it done. And now here you are, you're out of it. And yeah, most teams just play out the string and that's it. And they're going to do the same. But once my barometer is if the betting line would literally be swayed by your presence, then I'm not risking you at the end of the season in garbage time. I mean, I don't see how it's any different.
Let me ask you a question, Larry. How does his tape impact his negotiations? I mean, from your perspective, when he goes in to ask for a new contract, I mean, where do you start? Are you saying, well, it's your turn to get the most money because that's where the market is? Or are you, as a general manager, as an NFL scout, somebody who's seen a lot of football, I mean, wouldn't he want to have good tape? Now, I understand what you're saying. They could have been smarter in terms of how they used them, but I think that it was really important for the 49ers and for Brock to get something good on tape because he's trying to negotiate a contract. I think that part matters.
No, I hear you, but I mean, what are the odds that you're going to be able to put good tape together behind a bad offensive line? I mean, it's not like it's like a speculative deal. The Niners offensive line was 7th worst in football this year at pressure rates. And that was with Trent Williams, with Colton McKivitz, with, their starters. Now you're asking guys who you just signed off the street to step in. To me, that's a big difference. I mean, and once again, it's like the Niners say, he's our guy. We love him. We want to extend him. And we want to do it this summer or this offseason. So in a way, they're kind of telling you, we believe in our guy. This is our guy. You guys are kind of laying it out there like he needs to show what he's got. He needs to prove what he's got. And that doesn't seem like that jives with what they've said. They've said, we like this guy. We want to sign him. He's our guy. So if he's your guy, then why wouldn't you protect him a little bit better? I mean,
I think it's not like this is definitely my fan brain is thinking. Well, actually, that's just my only brain is a fan brain, but it's. I do put a lot of stock, especially when it comes to football, into vibes.
Yeah,
you see the absolute peak of vibes in the Detroit Lions. I can't get enough of the post-game locker room stuff with Dan Campbell. It's just great. I think back to like that Lions year, his original, I think it was his first season, the kneecaps, and that, they won maybe 4 games, but they were in a ton of them, and they ended the season with great vibes. It was similar to like the Niners season when Jimmy G came over and they won 6 straight, and they just ended the season with some great vibes. I felt like this game, like it wasn't all about, okay, like what is Brock Purdy going to do? I feel like Kyle also, now I don't know if I would say like loss of confidence, but I think Kyle has felt a little bit lost at points this year. And I think this was just an important game to like try and just put it all together, give the best performance you can versus a legitimate opponent that like, needs a win that's going to show up. It's Monday Night Football. It felt like the locker room, I don't think there's any chance Kyle can lose the locker room, but the locker room, you've heard stuff this year that you haven't heard in past years. The team feels like it's a little bit on tilt, a little bit in a weird transition thing. And I just think it was just overall important for everybody that could play to go out there, play their best, and, just end the season with some quality vibes.
Yeah. I just don't think that you can ever play football to lose. You can't play football to lose. It's like you can play basketball to lose, kind of, but football is too rough. Like if you're a coach, if you're a player, you can't be like, well, we're not going to try this game. Like you're going to try, and you can't bubble wrap players if they're healthy. If you have a Dre Greenlaw and he's banged up, yeah, you sit him. You CeeDee Lamb on the Cowboys, he's been had a hurt shoulder for the last 3 weeks, and he's been nursing that injury. They shut him down for the last 2 games. But if you're Brock Purdy, you can't just bubble wrap Brock Purdy and say, oh, if he plays for 2 games, he may get injured. Like anyone can get injured at any game. And if he's going to play quarterback for the Niners, he's going to have to play games and not get injured. So,
but then why would you sit him in game 8, week 18 last year?
Yeah, exactly. And then here's the other question. Why do you, that makes no sense at all. Here's why. Because you're talking about when they get to 3rd and 10, by that argument, they should just drop back to pass and try to pass for 10 yards. But when they get to 3rd and 15, they should drop back to pass and try to find 15 yards. The Lions do, but the Niners don't. The Niners run the ball on 3rd and 15 and then punt. Why? Because they're trying to avoid more negative plays from happening. They're behind the chains and they don't feel like they can make it happen. So there are times where you put it away till another day. There are times when you are like, you know what, we're not going for it here. And you could have a good quarterback with good receivers, but if it's 3rd and 22, you've seen Shanahan do it. So are you saying that in those situations he's quitting? No, he's managing risk. That's what you do as a coach. You manage risk. And so all I'm saying is they should have managed their risk. And as far as these people here, there's a lot of people every time that get into, as soon as the Niners lose a game, it becomes Brock Purdy, Brock Purdy, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was 4th in the NFL in last year's MVP voting. He led the 49ers to a Super Bowl appearance and lost to the best quarterback on the planet in overtime. And now, a year later, he's crap. That's a little too knee-jerk for me. That's a little too bipolar Bob for me. That's a little too all over the map for me. There's where's the consistency there in your opinion? Or, I realize it's a volatile game, but it ain't that volatile. This guy did not become crap overnight. He was 4th in the MVP voting. They went to the Super Bowl last year. Now you take away McCaffrey, you take away Ayuk, you make Debo get old, and guess what? It's not like the Niners have a bunch of other weapons they could go to. Now you're going to replacement weapons on a team that's cap is dominated by the weapons who are out. So it's like it's even worse than a normal team. He doesn't even have normal weapons now. Now he's got like terrible weapons. So I if you want to be critical of him, you want to say don't pay him $60 million. You want to say that you don't think he's the guy. But my goodness. Just crapping on the guy when he was literally this close to winning the MVP and the Super Bowl last year over Patrick Mahomes. I don't know. Am I the only one that seems like people get a little bit, it's one thing to be a creature of the moment, but come on. There has to be some balance where you can see that his equation has eroded around him, and that it's not what we're seeing is not just the regression of Brock Purdy, it's the regression of the entire snake, and he's just the head. That's how I see it. I don't know how you guys see
I think
it.
what you were describing, Larry, when you talk about 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 15 is situational football, and that's what any sports is about, situations. So the situation for sitting Brock Purdy is not that he might get hurt or that he should play, shouldn't play. It's situational. They're out of it. The game's meaningless. You have a quarterback situation next year. You don't know if you really need to draft another quarterback for the backup for Brock. And you got this guy, Tanner Mordecai. I'm not saying he's going to beat out. I'm saying he should be. Is he a legitimate backup in the NFL? Well, you can't tell by preseason games and practice. game time situation. Let him play 2 games. If you might go, wow, we don't need to draft anybody. If we do,
He
it's
may
just for a
get
third.
second half. He may get the second half against Arizona. He may.
Mhm.
I think that was it.
I would start him because what are you going to bring back? Josh Dobbs next year? Are you going to bring back Allen?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, if you know Brock Purdy's going to be here most likely, unless something really, really funky happens in this negotiation or this injury is truly awful. But now with this injury, it does make you wonder if they will try to bring in a non-backup. I'll say this: the one thing I kind of feel that Brock needs is he's such a competitive guy, but I think you have to, even if you give him a contract, I think you have to have somebody there who you can go to, if as to keep his feet to the fire. I mean, how do you get the best out of Brock Purdy? By having somebody right there pushing him at all times. This year, he didn't have Sam Darnold right there. You could argue that Dobbs is 3-11 career. Brandon Allen is a borderline player. He's 2-7 in 9 career starts, maybe 2-8 now in 10 career starts. So those guys, the Niners probably have to go with a cheaper quarterback room, but they also probably need to have a better number 2 quarterback so that it holds Brock's feet to the fire a little bit more. But unless the Niners are saying one thing and they're going to do another, they're on the verge of extending him. Are we all in agreement that this should be the end of the road for Jake Moody, or is there somebody here that feels like Jake deserves another opportunity?
I'd give him another opportunity.
You would?
Yeah, I mean, just from the standpoint of he's been different since his leg injury. So if you tell me you're gonna maybe get it, I mean, look, the Lions got Jake Bates from the UFL. So if the Niners have to move on, I'm not really worried about who are they going to get next. It's more like who should they pick. So if the Niners want to keep Jake Moody and make him compete for the starting job, that's fine by me.
I like that, Kevin. I wouldn't cut him outright because he clearly has ability, but I would bring in somebody with the real opportunity to beat him out. Because it's a bottom line business. And one of the things, kickers are so special. They're such specialists. They impact the locker room because it's hard to win football games in the NFL. And when you lose, and even tonight, they lost by 6 points. If he does his job like 80% of the kickers do in the NFL, the 49ers might win tonight. So you can't have somebody not getting hurt, not hitting on a daily basis, missing what we perceive to be routine kicks. So if you keep him, you got to bring somebody in and give him a legitimate opportunity to beat him out.
Somebody sent me this tonight.
Wow, that's a high quality Photoshop.
Looks very real.
You ready? How'd you leg, Dan? You ready? You ready to go?
Oh, gosh.
Are you the best field goal kicker at Del Boca Vista?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, that's the other question.
For sure.
All right, let's hit a couple of these supers because we're 48 minutes in and we're only going an hour tonight. Terrence Sullivan says, now that I'm 3 sheets to the win, go Niners in 2025. All right, Terrence, good to see that you're drinking well. D Money says, we need to draft a quarterback. Purdy is not the answer. Do you guys agree with that? Did the Niners need to draft?
How would you evaluate his performance tonight?
I thought he was solid.
Really good. I thought it was a really, really good performance and 2 bad picks. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah.
I thought he, like when he ran for a touchdown, at that point in the game, I'm like, wow, Brock's playing really well. He
was hitting everything. I think the first quarter they mentioned on the telecast, the ball hadn't hit the ground for either team. Goff and Purdy were like 18 for 18 or something combined. I don't know what it was, but Brock was 9 for 9 before he threw an incompletion. I thought he looked really good. I think the interceptions, when they get down and he tries to do too much, and the one that really bothered me the most was I can live with the first one because it was an error in physical error. He overthrew it. The second one was a mental. He shouldn't have thrown that with right. It was such a timing pattern that there had to be somebody else open because there was 3 guys like
Debo
right
was open.
there. And he was like zoned in on Pearsall the whole play.
Well, if you watch that, Danny, I would swear that Pearsall ran that identical route at least 3 times within the quarter. At least 3 times. And I felt like Kirby Joseph on the 3rd time jumped it for fun. He didn't jump it and like get a finger on it. He jumped it and he was 5 or 6 yards in front of the receiver.
Yeah.
He was probably 12 yards behind the receiver when Brock separated the ball from his hand. So, I mean, it was just, the thing about quarterback, I think Brock's playing well, but the turnovers are going to kill you. You can't turn it over the way he turns it over and win games. So it's like aggressiveness is nice and it's great to be aggressive. I'd rather have an aggressive quarterback than captain check down. But dude, right now his dial is turned to too aggressive. And we've seen, Derek Carr, Alex Smith, other quarterbacks whose dial's too conservative, right? And they're just constantly checking it down or just throwing it out of harm's way, but they also don't complete passes. Brock right now is taking an inordinate number of chances, and he looks very impatient, and he's driving the ball down the field almost relentlessly. And a lot of times his receivers don't have separation. A lot of times they're not really all that open. And he's putting the ball, he's throwing the equivalent of a lot more 50-50 balls. And you throw enough of them, guess what? Some of them are turning into picks, and 2 of them did tonight. I mean,
I'm interested to see how like the media reacts to this, because statistically, like outside of the picks, like it looked like a really great game from him. He ran one in, he threw it all around, but like one of those picks to me, like any of those picks, pick either one, like that immediately disqualifies you from having a great game. And then the second one disqualifies you from having a good game. So I just thought this was a bad game. Like that.
Think about this though. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just like that changes the game. Like that, those were
Right.
2, like they were
2
driving
picks,
down the
1
field.
possession,
That
yeah.
destroyed the game. That
Yeah,
really
you can't
lost
have-
30.
you can't
Yeah.
throw 2 picks. I mean, that's it. You
Think
just
about
can't. I mean,
this, though. We're talking about Brock, right? Isn't this what we're seeing the last, I don't know how many weeks it's been, 6, 8 weeks, where we're seeing picks late in the game? Isn't this the same thing we used to say about Jimmy? Oh, he's always going to throw a pick in the 4th quarter, and they always won games when he didn't throw picks. And
Just
we see
look different with Jimmy.
It did, but the part where I'm just getting at is that I think it has more to do with Kyle's offense and the scheme than it does the actual quarterback. Because if you look at when Jimmy first came here, he was improvising, didn't even know the offense. The guy looked like all world. And Brock kind of did when he first started out and he came into the offense. And, now the deeper you get into Kyle's offense and the deeper you have to follow the game plans and the plays themselves, like that pass that was picked by Joseph, that was ass. There was nobody. That was one receiver. Where's the other receivers in the route? Why is he throwing to one guy?
Dan, players are responsible for their play.
I know, but you have to go by that play. That's Kyle's playbook.
Okay, but the one he threw to Pearsall, it was just an overthrow. That's all it was. He made a mistake.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about that one. I'm not.
Well,
I'm talking,
that's part of the offense, though. That's one of 2 interceptions that he threw. The other one that he threw that the Branch intercepted. You know what? He misread it. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about the one that he threw. He singled in on the whole play. He didn't.
If you ask him, that was a bad play. I think Brock Purdy. The one thing I like about him, he's very accountable, and he says, "Yo,
this is
made a bad throw."
This was Purdy after the game, just so we can hear it.
What happened on those 2 interceptions, Brock?
First one, just got away from me. I left it too high for Ricky. And then the second one, I saw the linebacker suck in, and I thought I was going to have some space for Ricky, and then sure enough, there's a safety there in a disguise coverage, and so he just jumped it. So
I love that about him. I love that.
He jumped it because they had 16 straight pass plays, and there was not a whole lot of balance. And I thought some of the route combinations looked very repetitive. I mean, I'll know more when I watch the L-22.
Yeah, that's the point,
I
Larry.
felt like that route combination that Ricky ran right there.
Yes.
What he had run 3 times in that quarter, and they had 16 straight passes. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I understand what Kev's saying. If you throw picks, I mean, it's like, hey, it was a great game except for the home run that I gave up in the 8th and the home run that I gave up in the 9th. Well, wait a second. You gave up 2 home runs in the 8th and 9th, so I get it. And you can't compartmentalize these things completely, but you also can't evaluate these things in a vacuum. The Lions are a much better football team than the 49ers. And I bet the Lions tonight to beat the 49ers. Why? Because the Lions are the better team, and it was a 3.5 point spread. So I knew the Lions were going to win this game. You guys all knew the Lions were going to win this game.
I won big money tonight.
My big concern was don't get embarrassed. I wasn't winning was not an option tonight as far as I'm concerned.
Well, they had the opportunity though. That's what I'm saying. Like Brock, they had the opportunity to score the points, and Brock made the mistake.
They hung around because they played great in the first half, but they eventually the better team won. And when you have a bad offensive line, when you don't have any offensive balance, when you're dropping your quarterback back to pass 16 straight times, odds are there's going to be a turnover or two. There was.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
I will not sit here and act like it's somehow some shocking thing that Brock Purdy threw a couple picks and they lost to the Detroit Lions. If they played the Detroit Lions 100 times, they would probably lose to the Detroit Lions 90 times. I mean, the Detroit Lions are a much better football team. These are teams going in a totally different direction. I thought the Niners actually played a hell of a game. They are badly outgunned. And look what they've done the last few weeks, and look how they played tonight against a Lions team that I thought showed up and played. So I commented on it to Shanahan. I really believe it. I was looking not for the scoreboard tonight. I was looking for how sharp did the Niners look on offense, and how, did on defense, were guys flying around and playing hard and making plays. And I saw guys on defense that were flying around and making plays. So to me, that tells me all I need to know about their culture. It's week 17, and Malik Mustafa ran 40 yards to tackle Jahmyr Gibbs on a play where if he didn't make that 40-yard run, the guy probably gets to the end zone. So I thought the effort was there. I think the culture is good. What's eroded is the talent. Their offensive line stinks. Their receivers are not great. They don't have speed for the most part. They're operating behind their second and third string guys, and they just don't have enough. But I thought overall, the Niners fought and clawed, and there was a chance of getting their doors blown off tonight, and it didn't really happen. I guess you could say it did because they were down by 2 scores until the very end there. But for the most part, I was kind of pleased as far as their ability to hang. I thought they fought. I mean, the question now is long term. Is Brock the guy long term? Is Kyle the guy long term? Is Jake Moody the guy long term? Is Nick Sorensen the guy long term? I mean, how good are their young receivers, Cowing and Pearsall? Do they have to go receiver high again in the right now? But I would say, I don't think I still very much believe in Kyle. I still very much believe in Purdy. I don't really believe at all anymore in Moody. And I don't really believe in Sorensen. I do think they need a better special team. They had more penalties on special teams. I mean, my God. I mean, where's the accountability? Why isn't Brian Schneider fired like 7 weeks ago? There have been major screw-ups on special teams virtually every single week, including major penalties, and we saw it again tonight. To me, that lack of accountability is going to potentially, cost you the locker room. I don't think it has right now. I think they have a good culture, but I thought they played hard tonight. But I do think Brock's the guy going forward. I do think Shanahan's the guy going forward. But now if Brock's elbow is significantly injured, you're going to have to find another quarterback, most likely, to bring in that's not Brandon Allen or Josh Dobbs or Tanner Mordecai next year, in addition to Brock. And that is going to be, we'll find out what the MRI says tomorrow, but obviously I think it's very clear. Brock says he wants to play in week 18. There's no way they're going to let him. There's no way.
On this back to the 16 pass plays in a row, I want to add some context, because I remember there was a specific question that Kyle got asked during the week, and it was like why? The question was basically like, why are the Lions so good on D, or why are they still like able to win despite all their injuries? And he said that like they've been able to overcome all their injuries on their defense because of the really good, really good in the secondary, and they have really good DBs. And then I wrote in my notes when I was watching this game that I kind of felt like Kyle adopted that in his game plan, because they were running the ball a lot. They were able to isolate Kittle on the linebackers. They were able to do and when they did pass the ball, it was off play action, or it was these pop passes. They were able basically to drive the ball down the field without really throwing the ball to the DBs. Like they were basically avoiding throwing to the DBs. And then once the game got back into the game script of throwing at the DBs, that's when it fell apart. Like Kirby Joseph ended the game for them. So he's kind of proving Shanahan right. Like if the Lions are able to overcome their deficiencies on their defense by having really, really good defensive back play, and that's what beat the Niners.
It's interesting that would be your take. I personally felt like my take was, obviously the Niner takes, but on the Detroit side, I kind of feel like this game is like kind of an indication that they've got a ton going right, but that they're not going to win the Super Bowl. I mean,
I agree too.
You just allowed a 49er offense that can't do jack to how many points? Niners scored 34 points. The Niners just scored 34 points. That's not a championship defense. Yeah. This Detroit team's not beating Philadelphia or Buffalo or to me,
they have one shot to get
Minnesota,
to the Super Bowl.
Green Bay. I like Kansas City. I like those teams.
They have to win Sunday night against Minnesota, or I think they might lose in round one. If they got to beat the wild card if they go 14-3 and end up as the 5th seed and got to go to play Tampa, and they haven't had a bye since their bye was week 5, they are going to be so down and they're going to be physically wiped out. I don't think they'll have it in them to run the table.
Their defense is totally cooked. Their defense is totally. I know I was just saying their DBs are good, but if their defense is nothing, then the Niners. I think that the Niners scoring 34 is an indictment on the Dallas's defense more than the Niners offense today.
Detroit.
Sorry, Detroit. Yeah.
We got this one. Let's hit these supers and we'll jet here. DeBig 25 says Moody makes all of his kicks. They have 41 points. Yeah. Jake. I don't even know what to say about Jake at this point. Matt 831 says Garendo in space. What a concept. We got this one from D Money. He says we need to draft a quarterback. Purdy is not the answer. I don't know who that's going to be. Fuji Simeon says need some good news, Larry. How was the media food? It was interesting.
Fuji. All right. Hey, Fuji.
It was brisket and wasn't top. It wasn't great today. It wasn't great. It was just okay. Craze says kicker went from Money Moody to Jake.
They benched their chefs.
Moody.
They benched the chefs.
Yeah.
Couldn't risk an injury.
Should they cut him? Yeah, exactly. They have different chefs for the postseason.
Practice squad chefs.
Yeah. Should they cut him, or does his injury give him a pass this season? I think you can bring back Moody next year, but you better bring him back into camp in a competitive situation and make him earn it. If you hand him that job again, you're stupid. DeBig 25 to start Tanner Mordecai next game behind this O-line. Yeah, it's not that Tanner Mordecai is amazing. It's just we don't know what he is. So let's find out. Seymour Duckett's Purdy's a younger, more mobile Jimmy G. Going to have one ugly pick per game. It will happen. Tough to call to keep at 50 million plus per. Darnold was here. Should have kept him. When I hear people, compare Purdy to Jimmy G, it reminds me that there's a lot of people that don't watch football, only Niner football. Matt 831 says role of D Winters next year seemed to fly around. Yeah, D Winters good linebacker. I don't know if he's really strong against the run, but he's a good linebacker and he can play. He will have a role on the team next year. Andre Hanna, this game showed us a few things. Brock Purdy showed he can beat deep man coverage. O-line needs to be upgraded big time in the draft. Amen to that. Pearsall will be better next year, no question. Moody needs to go. John Lynch, frustration showed us much on TV. What was that, by the way? I have to ask you guys because I wasn't watching on TV, but I did see a picture of John Lynch up in the booth, and he looked pissed off. Do you remember what point that was?
It was the second pick.
Oh,
Was it? I think they also showed him being pretty disgusted with the defense.
Yeah, there was another time they showed him after, what was it? I think it was a touchdown. Was it a touchdown run or was it the Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown? I'm not sure, but it was.
Think about him getting pissed on that second pick, though. That's his position, Joseph. That's what Lynch played.
Well, and Lynch is like, hey, man, you got to see that. You got to see that. I'm sure he's frustrated with Brock there. Bill Kennedy says, dark thought, but Brock's potential injury may have saved the 49ers millions in cap space. You're right, Bill. That is a dark thought.
Wait, this is this was him after the line scored touchdown. I didn't realize he was this mad. This is
let me see this, but I got to build it.
I don't know. This might have been the lateral touchdown.
The hook and ladder?
Yeah, that was like 3rd and 22, or it was like 2nd and 22, and then Gibbs. I don't know.
You know what that?
Did you say Hufanga? I can't tell.
Hufanga sucked today, by the way.
He said something with the F-bomb right there. You can tell.
God damn it.
Hufanga, but you know what? When you see this picture, you know what it tells me is that John Lynch is under some serious pressure. John Lynch is under some pressure. I don't know if, I'm not saying these jobs on the line, but I'm just saying he's under some pressure. He's feeling it there.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about this game being meaningless or whatever. Like, John Lynch wanted to win that game.
They had enough offense to win the game. The defense sucked. Special teams sucked. In a lot of ways, it's been a little bit different the past couple weeks, this Niners offense, just because they've been so banged up, and it's been hard to evaluate. This felt more like earlier in the season 49ers when Purdy was playing a little better. They were really pushing the ball down the field. They were scoring points. And it was just like that too, because they look phenomenal. The offense looks phenomenal until they're losing or in a really tight game. And that's when they just absolutely crumble.
Why is that? Why do they always look bad?
Because the second they get behind, Kyle doesn't put...
It's the same thing we've seen all year. Yeah. It's the same thing we've seen all year. When this team when everybody knows they need to run, they can't run. When everybody knows they need to pass, they can't pass. They can only take teams by surprise. They can pass it when you think they're going to run it. They're a much better passing team on first down than they are on 3rd and long. When they get into situations where the defense has a pretty good idea of what they're going to do, they're cooked. And I think it has a lot to do with their bad line.
This was Josh Dubow. He tweeted this out. It says 49ers Brock Purdy went down 1 to 8 points in the 4th quarter or overtime, regular season or playoffs. He's 41 of 72, 502 yards, 3 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, a 52.9 passer rating. That's 151st out of 160 quarterbacks.
He becomes Iowa State. This is what you heard from Iowa State fans.
He did turn it over a lot.
He turned it in a lot in super high leverage situations, like just as you were starting to believe in him. Like that was the constant thing I saw.
Fuji Simeon says Larry lost a bet on whether Moody misses kicks. I now have to sing the SI Fight song. If Moody's not healthy, then why take him off the IR weeks ago? I know they said he was healthy. What can we say? Bill M drops this one. Kids, we got bigger problems than kickers. Moody will be back and he can compete. Why would you get rid of him now? Great point, Larry, on his comments. Fuji Simeon says, he's like, look to the UFL for our next kicker. Debo can now tell Moody to lock in. Hope Purdy injury isn't too serious. And we got this one from Claw Daddy Arcades. He says, bright spot, Pearsall, sure thing. Moody's gone. And Kittle's consistency. Surprise, although LK called it, but Purdy getting injured in a game. It was. I wasn't predicting it. I'm just saying I didn't want him to play because I thought there was a very good chance behind this line that he would get injured. And sure enough, he did. Bill M says, that's the point, Larry. It's not admirable. It's stupid. When you start him in the game, why would you pull him when technically still in it? because you're done for the year and these games don't mean anything. That's why. Austin says, as a Brock fan, I'm now officially worried with these second half bad decisions and picks. I am too. I'll admit. I mean, I'm a huge Purdy fan, but the only thing I'll say is that a lot of times problems in other spots will look like problems with the quarterback because all the pressure comes down on the quarterback. So Brock is the kind of guy that's going to put the ball out there. And in some ways, that level of moxie and guile is what makes him him. But man, if you throw enough 50-50 balls in a game, and he's throwing a lot more this year, 50% of the time your guy catches it, but if 50% of the time the defense catches it, you make enough of those passes and you're going to wind up with multiple picks. And we're seeing that. Bradley Brown says Kyle is just too stubborn. He has to change, even if it's his brand of toilet paper he uses. Baby steps. That would be a big move for Kyle. Terrence Sullivan says, when did we get so soft? Play your players. Detroit played all their players. Yes, play Purdy. Play him. Okay, there you go. We got James Foster. You saw how that went. James Foster, what the heck was going on at left tackle tonight? Austin Pleasance was what was going on tonight at left tackle. Fuji Simeon says Harbaugh vouching for Jake Moody to the Niners is the last FU to Jed York. I'm perplexed by Moody's short kickoffs and missed field goals and extra point. Yeah, I mean, right now he's a tire fire. And you know what? The truth is, there are probably guys off the street right now that'll be better than him. That's, they could,
right now he's the worst kicker in the NFL by far. Like his just the streak he's on right now.
I mean,
unmatched.
A 51-yard field goal in 2024 is almost like a layup. He missed a 41-yard field goal. Andre Hanna says Renardo Green is going to be a stud for years to come. The one bright spot on our team moving forward is our defensive back field with Green, Lenore, and Mufasa. I will say this about Renardo Green, though. If I was Lynch, the play that I would have absolutely jumped up out of my seat dropping F-bombs is the Amon-Ra touchdown where Renardo Green was 3 yards in the end zone. Bro, who are you defending 3 yards in the end zone? Guess what, Renardo? You don't get extra points if, you stop them 5 yards in the end zone.
I thought he looked like 5 or 6 yards back.
It's like, dude, what are you doing? You gotta know you're down in distance, and that's difficult in the bulk of the field, but that's easy on the goal line. And it's like he forgot down in distance on the goal line.
He did make a really good play on Laporta. He blocked a touchdown to Laporta first quarter.
Oh, Jake Moody's in the chat. He says, if you cut me, there's nothing from the 2023 draft. Maybe that's why John Lynch was pounding the table. Maybe he was looking at his 2023.
Is that the real Jake Moody? That's the real Jake Moody, guys.
No, it is not. Brody Chrisman says, new member. Way to go, Brody. Thanks for jumping aboard. Fuji Simeon says, the game all went to shit when Moody missed the first field goal. I kind of agree. That at the end of the first half there.
Well, he had the momentum.
Does it seem like Kyle Shanahan gets into these long field goal situations a lot more than he really should? At times, you would swear he's playing for it. Bill M says, new member. Way to go, Bill. Keyshawn McMillan in the house says, the real question is, why can't 49ers win when they turn it over? Goff throws 4 and wins. Coaching has to come into play. No. How can the culture be fixed? They don't have a bad culture. It's not their culture. If they had a bad culture, guys wouldn't play hard. Guys play hard. They don't have enough talent. I mean, I hate to say this because I like John Lynch, but Brad Holmes is the star. Brad Holmes is the star of the Detroit Lions. Everybody talks about Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's just a guy. Dan Campbell's a guy who talks funny, who is, played football and will bite your kneecap. But Dan Campbell cost them a trip to the Super Bowl last year. The real star with the Detroit Lions is Brad Holmes. He's the star. He was with the Rams with Charlie Army and Dick Vermeil as the director of college scouting. He was the guy who became the Lions GM in 2021. And it's an incredible story of perseverance. This guy is a former D lineman whose daddy played offensive line for the Steelers in the 70s. He's a defensive tackle in college. And the guy got into a car wreck in 1999 and was in a coma for a week, and they thought he was going to die. And he emerged from that coma and obviously has become one of the NFL's best executives. He takes over for them. They drafted Jeff Okudah in the 2020 draft, who was Buckeyes, total bust. They took him in the top 5. He comes out first draft. Panay Sewell's his first pick. Then he drafts Aleem McNeil, Ifatu Melanfonwu. He got Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th round. That's the first year. The second year, Aiden Hutchinson in the 1st round. Jamison Williams, Kirby Joseph, who had the big picks tonight. Malcolm Rodriguez. Those guys were the 2022 draft. And then the 2023 draft, here are the first 4 picks of the 2023 draft for the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch. That's 2 1s and 2 2s. That's kicking ass, man.
And then they had an issue in the secondary, so they just went cornerback in the draft.
Right.
Watching a lot of Alabama practices.
Terrion
Yeah,
Arnold
exactly.
and Rick
Hanging out with Saban down there.
And Terrion Arnold is one of the great people. That's the other thing. It's like, what do you really need? You need great players, but you also need great people. And I feel like Brad Holmes understands that it's not about 40 times and vertical leaps. It's about production and people. And he goes after productive college football players who are great people. And Terrion Arnold, there is no finer guy than that guy.
I love Branch. I think Branch is going to be
free safety in the game.
Yeah.
Hall of Fame.
They also got lucky. They got kind of gifted Penei Sewell, and
they made the right call in Goff.
They made the right call in Goff. Got a bunch of picks. They were kind of gifted Aiden Hutchinson. Like everyone thought he would go number 1, except Larry. You called that one, but
football is it's like a 2 and 3 year thing. So whoever's good now, they probably drafted well 2 or 3 years ago. And if you look at the Lions, they kicked ass in the draft 2 or 3 years ago. Look at them. The Niners, they've really died. They had a great draft this year, but they really died in the draft in 21, 22, 23, and they're paying the price for it right now. I mean, it's just as simple as that. A couple more before we jet. Fuji Simeon says, bought the white hoodie, Kev. Oh, nice.
I saw that. That's dope.
Thank you. Mufasa says, Purdy, a.k.a. Jimmy G from the South. Yeah, I mean, it's just, once again, it's like if you're telling me that Purdy's Jimmy G,
Isn't Purdy from Arizona?
Yeah, he's from Arizona, and he's not from the South. I guess it's maybe Southern Arizona, maybe Danny. Maybe Danny can tell us about it. Poontang Pie, which is an interesting handle, says trade Purdy and draft the next Lance or Alex Smith. Well, that's exactly what you need. The big says read somewhere no UCL. I just read somewhere no UCL tear on Purdy's elbow. Okay, we'll see. He said he was having a lot of pain. Somebody asked him if it was similar to Philadelphia. I think he said that it wasn't, but we'll have to find out tomorrow. Dimitri Golovin says St. Brown is a 4th rounder and Moody's a 3rd rounder. Next draft is key. Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it right there. Aaron Loss says, will KMBR have you doing pajamagram ads in February? I did them for many years. You're going to like the way they look. She's going to love the way they look. You're going to love the way they feel.
Aaron's the one that texted me that kicker putting my name on Robbie Gould's.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, that's the one.
Steve Lynn says all season after Moody misses a field goal, Kyle goes past crazy because he quietly doesn't want to kick a field goal, doesn't have a wide receiver that can separate, and had to forfeit. All right, guys, let's go with our final points here. We're an hour and 18 minutes in, and we appreciate everybody hanging out. But let's go with our final point in our game ball. We'll start with you, Kev. Oh, what happened, Kev? We only have one layout. There we go. We have other layouts to take people out. I didn't even realize that. We don't want to do that. Okay, so let's get our final thoughts here. Kev, go ahead. What's your game ball? What's your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I mean, I just thought, the big thing obviously is, watching Brock Purdy. You're going to pay him. Do you pay him? I still think you obviously pay him, but I'm also not going to say that he had a good game. I tweeted out that I thought that it was a bad game for Purdy and that the 2 of those picks were some of the worst picks he's had. And I don't really care if it's, he misread it or he overthrew the guy, like whether it's a physical or mental error. They're both errors and they're both his fault. So, and I thought that really ruined the game for them. I thought this game, if you're going to win this game, it was going to be a shootout because your defense sucks and their defense sucks. So it's really about who's going to get, who's going to turn the ball over or who's going to get held to a 4 and out or a punt situation, and Purdy really halted their offense by those interceptions, and I'll put it on him. For game ball, I'll go easy. I'll go Ricky Pearsall. The guy's struggled, and he got the easy targets and he got some good receptions, and we got to see a little bit more from him. So I'll give him the game ball.
That's a good pick. Hey, just come to think of it, you mentioned get a punt or 4 and out. Detroit didn't punt tonight, did they?
Nobody punted.
Nobody
there was no
punted.
punts.
Yeah, nobody punted. Yeah, that's crazy.
In fact, I think the only other game that I ever remember watching in NFL history that didn't have a punt was the Niners and the Bills in 1993, where neither side punted, but neither side punted tonight.
Wow, that's right. Then no one punted.
It was wild.
Wow.
But Danny, what's your final thought on this one outside of the no punts, and who's your game ball?
Well,
and by the way, Danny, you just skipped Rye. We just
go ahead, Rye. Rye could go.
And Rye's irate about that.
I'm pissed. God, I don't know. I'll go game ball. George Kittle, 1,000 yards. Good on you. He's just been the most consistent guy all year. Worries me because tight ends, especially physical tight ends, tend not to last. You can't really get too many of these super productive receiving seasons out of them. So, it's a little bit of a shame. It feels like a wasted season, but not wasted to 49ers fans. I think 49ers fans just love Kittle more than ever after this year. Just what a dude. I will say this. I will spin positive after this game. They have now guaranteed they have a last place schedule. They're looking like they're going to get the 11th pick, 11th or 12th. And assuming Ben Johnson's gone, which I would have to assume he's going to be gone, I'm not taking any other offense over the 2025 49ers in the NFC. Even if they pay Purdy $55 million, whatever. I just look around the landscape. Eagles, they have a nice offense. It's fine, but really they're kind of winning with their defense right now. I think this Niners offense is going to be awesome again next year. And I'm excited to get some good value, some decent value on some Niners, like Super Bowl futures, some NFC West tickets. All that's going to be good stuff. And I think, it's going to be a pretty easy schedule next year. I'd be very surprised if they don't win 12 or 13 games and they're right back at it.
Red, give me your takeaway. Give us your game ball.
I'm hopeful based on what I saw tonight. I saw a lot of professionalism from the 49ers. I can pencil Greenwall in right now if he's healthy. I think if they have the 11th pick, they're going to take a good offensive lineman if he is available, or an edge rusher. I think they need one really, really badly. I want Brock Purdy back at around $50 million. And my game ball, this might be out of left field to some folks, but I'm going to give it to Debo. Debo had 3 punt returns for over 100 yards. Post being a jerk to Moody, dropping a pass. He could have just fell off the wagon, but the guy has shown a lot of leadership. He shut his mouth and he's went out and played football. He hasn't complained. And I'm one of those people that doesn't think that he's cooked. So I'm encouraged based on what I'm seeing the last couple of weeks. I want to see him come out next week and continue it. And I'm excited about him resurrecting his career next year.
I could go in a lot of different directions as far as game ball, but one, since I've been ripping Ricky Pearsall, I might as well give him some love here. 8 catches for 141 and a touchdown on 10 targets. He was really, really good. But I would say I'm going to give my game ball to 2 of the Niner captains. And because I thought Malik Mustafa was also really good. To me, that hustle play on Jahmyr Gibbs is just, man. I mean, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I am showing that play to the team, and I'm saying, guys, this is our culture. This is who we are. This is week 17. We're going nowhere. This was, a guy who is 40 yards away from the play and just dead sprint to go make the play. And I love that about Malik Mustafa. So that was awesome. That was an incredible play. I couldn't believe what I was watching when I was watching it from the upper deck. I'm like, wow, look at that. Look at that. But I'd have to say I'm giving 2 game balls. I'm giving one on offense to George Kittle. He got 8 targets. He caught 8 footballs. He has been damn good this year. He's a great blocker, and he's an efficient receiver now. It's like he catches everything. Go look at the number of targets George Kittle has had since the bye and the number of catches he's had since the bye. I guarantee you it's like he's catching like 90% of his targets since the bye. I mean, there's been at least 3 games that I can think of since the bye week where they targeted him 8 times. He caught 8 balls. There was another game where they targeted him 7. He caught 7. So the efficiency and the play of George Kittle, I mean, that guy has to be applauded. But the guy who I absolutely have to give the ultimate game ball to tonight, because he was a one-man show, and that is Nick freaking Bosa, who showed up huge in this thing tonight. 8 tackles, 5 solo, had a concuss. It looked like he was concussed early on, came back and led the way. 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. The Niners only had 4 hits on the quarterback all night. Guess who had them? All 4 of them. Nick freaking Bosa. So I'm going with Bosa, man. Bosa was spectacular tonight.
Yeah, that's who I was going to take.
I don't offer up a lot of, lapdog type questions at these press conferences. I believe in it. You ask a tough question or a straight question. I don't do a lot of how does it feel? All that stuff. But man, I gave Nick Bosa a question tonight. I gave him a compliment off the start. I'm like, man, you played hard. And you brought it tonight, and you kind of set the tone for everybody else. And I don't know if you saw the way he answered it, but I mean, he wasn't going to be like, yeah, I'm badass or anything, but he acknowledged that, he was a leader tonight. I mean, Nick Bosa is a great football player, but I don't know that he necessarily is your perfect leader. He's not a rah-rah guy. He's not a, fire up the room kind of a guy. He's more of a lead by example. But man, I mean, this guy today was just amazing. I mean, just the stat sheet doesn't speak to it. He was dominant against the run. He was a absolute fierce rusher all night. I'd love to see the one thing the box score doesn't tell me, it doesn't tell me how many pressures he had. I bet you he had a shit ton of pressures in this game. He was huge. He was absolutely huge. So Nick Bosa, I take my hat off to you. George Kittle, I take my hat off to you. Those guys balled out. And I'll say this, I wanted to see the Niners just not be embarrassed. And they, I made a list of what I wanted to get out of this game. And this was my list of what I wanted to get out of this game. Don't get Purdy killed. That was number 1. And it sounds like he may have gotten close to it. Don't get embarrassed on Monday Night Football. Win the game. See Izzy Abanaconda run. We didn't get to see that. He was inactive. Get Pearsall and Cowing going. Well, guess what? They got Pearsall going. Experiment with a lot of different ways to use Isaac Guerrero. I thought we saw a little bit of that. See who plays with reckless abandon on defense and special teams. And Malik Mustafa and Nick Bosa played with reckless abandon on defense. And to me, dude, that means everything. That's so defining in so many ways. That's going to do it for us. We're an hour and a half in. We never like to go more than 90. We have gone a little long on some of these shows. And I just want to say thanks to all you guys, because this is my favorite show of the week, is hanging with you guys. These are the guys that I want on the post game. Kev had to dip because his girlfriend's in town. So I understand that he had to dip, but I just wanted to say thanks to all you guys. I love every single one of you guys, and you guys are some of my favorite people. Let's go around the room and just plug anything you'd like to plug. Danny, why don't we start with you? Because I know you've been going live on NorCal Sports Network. You've been grinding. You're doing videos after Warrior games. You're doing videos after Giants games. You're doing live streams. Dude, you are working your ass off. And I just want to let you know, Danny, that I see it. I appreciate it. I smile every time I see it, because I feel like, I had a hand in getting you going down this road, and I'm proud of you. I don't mean it in a condescending way. I mean it in a, man-to-man, friend-to-friend way, but awesome what you're doing with NorCal Sports Network, man, and plug it as much as you can.
Yeah, appreciate it, Larry. Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun. We've been, as you said, we've been grinding. We've been putting out as much content as we can, and we're just, trying to be cutting edge on some content, come up with different ideas, talk about Giants ownership changes. I want to see the Giants get good again. I'm tired of watching mediocre baseball for a major market team, and hopefully our voices will resonate and maybe they'll start to get better. But that's what we do at NorCal Sports. We have fun, we do lives, but we try to make a difference. That's what we're doing. So thank you. And
It's good stuff, dude. It's absolutely good stuff. Danny's doing an amazing job. You got some great people on there, and you're doing some great stuff, man. So keep it rolling. And once again, NorCal Sports Network. It's the one with the California state flag. If you go to YouTube, give Danny a like and a subscribe and a follow over there, and check out his channel. And Red, I know you got the In the Dungeon show. Tell people when you go live next, and where they can find you and how they can find you.
Well, I mean, look at In the Dungeon in red letters. Everything is concise together. There's no spaces. It might be hard to find based on how it's spelled. But check the show out. The people who check it out are really, really loyal. I really appreciate it. We're very, very content heavy and having a lot of fun. You can follow me on X at Big Frank Red. And then, like Larry, I also want to just prop you up because you're really impacting the space. I love what you're doing, and it's showing, man. People are really checking your stuff out. Continued success.
Thank you,
Rye, if you ever want to talk movies, man, I just saw a Uncommon Man with Timmy Chalamet and Bob Dylan's story. I know you're in entertainment. I love movies. I go all the time. But it'd be good to talk some movies or sports with you as well. And that's it. If you want heavy content, you want somebody who's not going to lie, and you want somebody who makes zero money so you don't have to worry about anything, check out the In the Dungeon show. It's all good.
Hey,
I
Frank,
needed Rye to talk me off the ledge the other day. Sunday,
Why?
I was talking to him Sunday morning. I was in a survivor pool, and I was 21-0. And it started with 8,100 people, and I was down to the final 20. And the first place is 10 grand. And I'm like, I got two crappy teams to pick. I got the Tennessee Titans against the Jaguars, and I got the Raiders and the Saints. So I picked the Raiders, and I listened to all these people. Rye didn't steer me wrong. I had someone else steer me wrong, but that's okay. I picked the Titans, and I was like, what happened? I screwed up. I forgot that the Seattle Seahawks were playing Thursday night. I had them picked all week long. I thought, I'll just do it. I'm waiting on seeing if Derek Carr is going to play or not. And if not, I'm going to go Raiders. And then I got Seattle. Well, then Thursday night, I turn on the TV. It's in the second quarter, and I'm like, oh, crap. This is going to kill me. And it did, because I would have picked Seattle and the Raiders. I'd still be alive, but I picked Tennessee, and I finished in 15th place out of 8,100.
Oh, that's a good try. That's a good
I got
try.
the title wrong. I guess somebody corrected me. Thank you. A Complete Unknown is the Bob Dylan story. So
What I was going to ask you, Frank, have you seen Gladiator 2 yet?
yes.
Ooh.
Is it worth seeing?
I think so.
Because I love Gladiator 1, man.
Yeah, it's not quite as good as Gladiator 1, but it's solid though. It's good.
It's good. Okay.
Yep.
It's worth seeing.
Yep.
I've been playing fantasy football for a long, long time. Tonight, I actually won my first championship in fantasy football.
First one.
First one. So listen to this. This is a wild year. Kev and I have a team. We went in on it together. It was a $50 buy-in. We got the first pick in the draft. So we took McCaffrey.
Oh, wow.
And McCaffrey obviously blew up on us. And usually that's enough to ruin your fantasy right there, right? When your first pick blows up. But I told Kev, I said, I like to go for rookies. And so we drafted we have Josh Allen, but we drafted Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas from Jacksonville. And those guys went off. And we sat Malik Neighbors in the last game of the year mistakenly, and he scored 30 2 points on our bench. We wound up 11-4 in the fantasy league, and we were 6th in the league in points scored. 11-4 being 6th in the league. So we just got lucky. We just got lucky all year long. And we wound up in the championship game, and Sam Laporta was going tonight as our final piece, and we won 146-107. First fantasy championship ever. So I feel really good about that. I'm going to give my last thought on this is I was just going to say that, hope everybody has a fantastic 2025. It's been a down year for the Niners, but it's been a lot of fun as well. And I hope you guys know that, Kev and I are having a ton of fun doing our channel, and I have a ton of fun helping you guys promote your channels. And, I love what you guys put out there, and I'm really proud to be associated with you. So, thanks to all you guys. And Rye, go ahead. What you want to say?
I have
something?
one very important thing to say.
Go there.
I'm sure that a few people definitely just saw me smell my shoe on camera. I absolutely stepped in shit. I've been smelling it this entire episode, and I just was like, it's enough. It has to be on my shit. It's a tremendous amount of shit, actually.
Is it from Ringo?
No, there's just a lot of dogs in my neighborhood, and maybe a few homeless people as well.
You
You never know. You never know. Look, I don't discriminate against poop.
Didn't need
Suddenly the streets of San Francisco have been brought up. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to all you guys. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Let me just make sure that we don't get any comments that we didn't answer as far as supers, because, I hate to do that. Now we got them all. And I just want to thank all you guys. Have a great night. Thanks for supporting the Krug Show. And if you're just tuning in, Lions win at 40-34. The Niners were not embarrassed on national TV, but they went against my edict saying don't play Barack Purdy, and now he's got an elbow injury. Tomorrow we'll find out the extent of it. So that does it for us, for the fellas. Have a great night. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you won't get exactly